All right, so what is going on, everybody? It's me once again. And today, on December the 3rd, I'm here to talk about, I finished reading Unnatural Death by Patricia Cornwell, which is book number 27, I think, in her Scarpetta series. And I loved it. I'm always going to love these books. I've literally been reading this series for about 15 years, 14 or 15 years now. I can't calculate in my head. Any of these books come out, I think it's only probably a few that I didn't like, but that's neither here nor there. With that being said, I did have a little bit of an issue with Unnatural Death. But for starters, this has our chief medical examiner, Scarpetta, famous literary medical examiner, forensic pathologist, I guess you could say, but medical examiner mostly, Scarpetta, investigating this crime within the woods of Virginia, specifically surrounding this isolated gold mine. What happened is two federal agents are found murdered here. The woman is found in the pond or the lake. She's been skewered with hiking poles or sticks, and her husband is found in a mine shaft. There's some more details as it regards to how they were murdered, but you can read the book to get there. But the basic is that they are some secret agents who are actually rogues to their position within the federal government, who are trying to, I guess you could say, they isolated themselves because they have their own little bit of nefarious dealings with certain international forces. But those dealings eventually caught up with them, and then that's when they end up on Scarpetta's slab. What I love about this book, oh my goodness, let's just get right to it. I like the fact that Scarpetta is a character, although the author has received a lot of criticism in terms of when Scarpetta is simply a medical examiner, is used to retrieve bodies. I love the fact that she actually does that. That's like, people say, what medical examiner would scuba dive to receive a body? That's not her job, right? Scarpetta is the one that does that. And so in this book, she does go into the mine shaft. In this book, she does go into the lake to retrieve the body of the woman, the hiker woman, Secret Service hiking woman. And I like that. I love that. I love it. I remember, this is interesting because the author who I remember who I remember sort of gave that criticism to Patricia Cornwell in terms of, what medical examiner is really going to go out and retrieve a body that's like stuck underneath a pier or something underwater. She writes the same kind of books, but I hated her books. No, I won't say I hate her books, but I will say I was bored with her book that I couldn't even read it because I found the drama in there was like, the personal drama was succeeding the crime drama. But anyway, that's just kind of the thing that I love about this series, is that despite all of that, or the suspending of one's belief, is that Patricia Cornwell does take our character Scarpetta places. Okay, whether it's retrieve a body or some other place, she does take our characters there, and I, as a reader, enjoy that. Another thing I loved about this book is, with a lot of these books, there is this big overarching, sometimes conspiratorial threat that we're trying to arrive to. Some cases I wish the author would just kind of pare down to the domestic kind of things, domestic kind of situations, or we'll just say just basic criminal cases. But for the majority, these books are huge, complex, conspiratorial stories. A lot of times they do read convoluted, and they read a little over complex. And of course, unbelievable in a lot of places. But even with that being said, because the stories are told in the first person, I like the fact that Scarpetta is our filter to this situation. So we, as a reader, we get to examine the complexities through her lens, through her eyes, and through the ideas that she expresses to both internally and externally. So that's that bit of comfort. That's that buffer. So when it is to a point where I'm reading the books and I'm just like, why are we always going all the way to these big, huge places? It's that voice of Scarpetta that makes me settle down and be like, okay, I'll go with you, auntie. So yeah, that's one of the things I love about these books. So on top of that, I think the two things that really kind of bother me the most is that even with that being said, that I just mentioned, in the middle of the book, it was a little dry. The author did, or Patricia Cornwell did a great job of, because when I got to the end of the book, I was kind of surprised, or I was more like, damn, she really did tie all this stuff up. She really did tie it all up. But when in the middle of the book, because there is this sort of lack of investigative prowess and more of Kay Scarpetta ruminating and thinking, and it was inside of her office or at home, there's just kind of like this little dry spell where there's this extra tension on Kay Scarpetta trying to piece together the puzzles, or actually gather the puzzles that, you know, will get us the conclusion that we're looking for at the end. Yeah, I would have liked a little bit more movement in that area, because the beginning of the book there was a lot of investigative movement when it came, like I said, to retrieving the body. So in the middle it was a little lacking, but we were still receiving information, and by the time we got to the end of Unnatural Death, it all tied together. It was very interesting how the author did manage to tie it all together. But you know, that middle bothered me. And two other things, we're going back to this villain that has been presented in the earlier books, some of the earlier books, on into the later books, something within that realm. She's recycling her villains again. At one point there was a villain called John Baptiste that I was like, oh my god, he was he was just book after book after book after book after book. He was our challenging force. She's doing that again. I really wish she wouldn't. But even with that being said, while that villain was certainly there and a part of the plot, it wasn't the orchestrating force. It was the orchestrating force, but it wasn't the actual hand, the actual weapon doing all the crime. So that confrontation with the actual weapon that Kay Scarpetta did have was very much heightened in fear. That was pretty terrifying. I wish that the author spent a little bit more time with that, but that was very interesting and very kind of on brand with some of the earlier Kay Scarpetta books, because I remember her villains used to be really, really kind of fairly terrifying, especially when they came into contact with Kay Scarpetta. So we were getting close. We were getting closer to the older books in here, and I'm going to give just that bit of credit there, because I think it was 2 books ago the villain was somebody who never even appeared on stage at all. This one had a moment, and then this one was forcefully coming about for Kay Scarpetta's deck at the end of the book. So I gotta give a little bit of credit there, because otherwise we would have just probably had nothing. Sometimes the author does cheat when it comes to that in this series. But there's another element that the author reused, and it had to do with the pet door automatically unlocking. That's something that she used a couple books ago. So as I was reading that, I was a little worried, like, oh my god, why are you repeating this element? We've used this before. And you would think that the characters would react much more cautiously to this being an issue, but they didn't, especially after they experienced a villain who used this same method to try to destroy them before. So, but they didn't really respond the way I thought that they should respond. So I'm hoping in the next book that she does not use the pet doors again. Let's not use the same elements of plot points and tension that we used before. No more. Gotta be done. You already used that. We're not doing that again. But ultimately, as always, I did enjoy Unnatural Death. I'm a huge fan of the Patricia Cornwell Kay Scarpetta series. I don't care about what this person say, the negative, the positive, this or that. I love the books. I love the voice of Kay Scarpetta. I love going into these interesting cases. I'm a huge fan of autopsy scenes and mysteries. I love when some authors can throw that in there, and you know, that's one of the biggest clues we can, or one of the biggest elements that we can pull and siphon clues from, which is the actual body. It just turns in my brain, okay, what's happening, what's going on, how do we figure this out, where are we going? And of course, it's up to the author to either mislead me or to try to mislead me. And while Patricia Cornwell books are not exactly mysteries or whodunits or crime fiction, well, crime fiction certainly, but not exactly like whodunits in the traditional sense, you know, there still is that running conundrum that we the reader face as to how is all of these elements, how is all of these ideas and different clues going to pull together at the end. And somehow, you know, when you get to the end, or when I got to the end of Unnatural Death, I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. Okay, I understand why this connected to this and this and this. Although it's a bit over the top, still, like I said, that filter of Scarpetta delivering this information makes it work for me. So that's it. I loved Unnatural Death, and I don't even have to say that I'm ready for the next book, because I am. I'm always ready.